attractive. Right, okay. So I'm really looking forward to making the video that I'm going to make now, because this is going to be more like the kind of video that I set out to make when I started my YouTube channel, which is more of an advice kind of tips video. The whole reason I started my channel was to give advice to people and to help people out with mental health and physical health problems. So that is going to be more of what I'm making today. So today's video, as you can tell from the title, is going to be 10 lifestyle changes that you can easily implement into your life to begin to recover from depression. Now, this is by no means a cure-all or a great fix to your depression. Obviously, it isn't the kind of thing that you can just kind of overcome overnight, but hopefully these tips will just get you some more energy and get you started towards treating your depression on a much bigger scale. So first of all on the list is to get either more or less sleep, or just a better night's sleep. So my main problem was a few months ago that I wasn't getting enough sleep, even though I was setting myself away to sleep at about 10 o'clock. I would go up to bed about 10 o'clock with the intention of going to sleep. Unfortunately, because of just kind of my mind whirring with anxiety and just other kind of thoughts, I wouldn't actually get to sleep till about midnight, and then I would be getting up at 6 o'clock to get ready for work. The easiest change for the biggest result for me was to start getting more sleep. And the way I did that, because for some people it might seem like a good solution just to go to bed earlier and earlier, but I found doing that wasn't making any difference, because my brain would still just whir and whir and whir till midnight. Obviously for some people are morning people, but I'm not. I'm more of a night owl, so I find that no matter what time I tend to go to bed, I just don't get to sleep any earlier. So the best solution for me was to come up with a way that I could stay in bed for longer on the morning. So if you have a list a mile long of chores that need to be done in the morning, is there a way that you can reduce that chore list? For example, small changes I made was to set out my clothes the night before and to make my breakfast the night before, or to make a breakfast that I quickly make at home but then take into work with me. I'm the kind of person, I don't actually get hungry till about 11 o'clock, so I found it easier for me to quickly whiz up a smoothie at home and take it with me and drink it at my desk. Obviously some people would be against that, because they would say that you're supposed to be more mindful when you're having your breakfast and try not to multitask, but for me that just worked out as a better solution, because it meant that I got to spend more time in bed, and that extra 10 or so minutes in bed made more of a difference than I would get from eating my breakfast mindfully. Obviously that's not the case for everybody, it just was for myself. So those tiny little changes, just by organising your belongings the night before, make a big impact on the morning, because it means you get extra sleep and makes your morning less stressful as well, because you're not running around trying to figure out what to have for breakfast or what to wear on that day. Number 2 on the list is one that is going to make people probably groan when they watch that, and this is to get some exercise. This is the hardest one for me, because if you know me well, you'll know that I absolutely hate exercise. I can't even explain why. I'm just more of a couch potato kind of stationary person. I like sitting on the couch reading a book or watching TV, watching films, things like that. I also work a desk job, which means I'm at work for 6 hours a day at my desk. I go home, sit in front of the TV, reading books, lounging, watching YouTube videos, whatever. So exercise is a really hard one for me to implement personally, but it's one that's also so easy when you actually put your mind to it. And the best part is that you can do this with really small steps. Even if it's just a walk around your block, doing exercise videos in front of the TV. You might feel like a bit of an idiot when you first start doing this, but the best solution is just to close your blinds, make sure there's nobody else in the house or nobody else in the room, and just crack on and just recognise that it's just you and the TV, and it's a bit of fun. So walk outside, exercise in front of the TV. Those are 2 of the easiest and kind of closest to home ways that you can start implementing exercise. Number 3 is getting yourself outside. Obviously this is a hard one for me. As I've mentioned in a previous video, I do have agoraphobia, so it is hard for me to get outside. But even if it's just things like walking around the block or standing or sitting in your front garden. I don't have a garden, but I do have a tiny little yard, and sometimes I just like to get a picnic chair and just sit out there for 10 minutes. Even that 10 minutes does make a difference. Even if it's just taking yourself to your local shop or doing little challenges or little errands that mean that you have to go outside for 10 minutes at least, or up to an hour, whatever it is just get yourself outside, get a little bit of sunshine, a little bit of vitamin D, some fresh air, and that does make, as I say, not a massive difference, but it does give you that little bit of a boost to implement other changes. Number 4 is to socialise. Again, this is another one I really struggle with because I do have social anxiety on top of agoraphobia. However, I've noticed that when I do push myself to just send that text, to make that phone call, it does make a massive difference. One of the main reasons why is because it takes you out of your own life for a little bit. It's easy when you have depression to ruminate on your own problems. So to take yourself out of your life and focus on someone else's life does make a difference. And that's not to say that you should be comparing yourself with others and saying, well, other people have got things going on, other people have got bigger problems, so I should stop dwelling, I should stop moping. It's not to say that, it's just to get you out of your own head for a little bit and kind of put yourself in somebody else's shoes, or just to hear about somebody else's day for a little bit. It stops you thinking about yourself and it stops you dwelling on your depression. Number 5 is in complete contrast to what I've just told you, and that is to avoid social media. Obviously, I've said to get more social. That doesn't necessarily entail sitting for hours and hours on end scrolling through Facebook. You tend to end up getting yourself in a mindset where if you scroll for a long time, you start to feel guilt about the time wasted. And even though there's no real such thing as time wasted, and that is a kind of mindset you want to get yourself out of, this constant mindset of feeling like you need to be productive or useful or a functioning member of society, because really that's not a kind of mindset you want to be in. Scrolling does tend to lend towards that kind of guilt. So to avoid that altogether, it's best just to avoid social media. The best piece of advice I can give is so that in order to stay social and still be able to message your friends but avoid the scrolling trap, is to delete the Facebook app but keep the Messenger app. This is assuming you do have Facebook, and then you can still message people, but then you're not tempted to just, hi Danny. Next is simply to have a wash, and that's it. No, it's not. Is to change up the way that you do your morning hygiene routine. So I used to follow the idea that you have to get up every morning and have a nice refreshing shower as soon as you wake up. That's not actually the case. Although I do recommend, of course, having a wash every day, because it does just make you feel better and it gets you out of a funk. Sometimes it's easy when you get depressed to even feel like having a wash is a big chore. But the way you have your wash can impact on your mood and make you more likely to start the day and start your hygiene ritual. So for me, I started with changing up my morning showers for a morning bath. This might sound strange to some people, because I know a lot of people have a bath to kind of wind down on a night. They have a nice hot bath with bubble bath in and candles and things like that, and it helps them wind down. But for me, because especially with my shower, I don't have an electric shower, so it takes about 15 minutes to get the water to the right temperature anyway, by which point I'm bored and can't be bothered to have a shower. So it's much easier and uses much less water for me to just have a bath. And you don't necessarily need to have a hot bath or a bubble bath or anything like that. It can be pretty shallow, it can be tepid, it can be even cold if you want it to be. But whatever suits you, don't feel like you need to follow this kind of ideal of your hygiene routine. If you want to have a bath on the morning, if you want to have a bath on the night, if you want to have a shower on the night, whatever it is, change up your hygiene ritual to what actually feels good to you, and it'll boost you and make you more likely to actually have a wash when you feel like you can't be bothered. Next on the list is positive affirmations. You'll notice I've stopped using numbers because I can't actually remember what number we're up to now. But positive affirmations, I know these get a lot of negative flack because I've heard some people use the expression, well, if you were a happy person you wouldn't need to use positive affirmations, would you? Well, duh, I'm not a happy person, that's why I need to use positive affirmations. So they work best for me. I often find it difficult to write down my own. I know a lot of people recommend having kind of like a notebook or a place where you can write down your own positive affirmations on a morning. I find that really difficult because it gives me pressure to have to come up with some good positive affirmations. I get a bit of head fog and a bit of a mind block, and I become stressed and it makes me more anxious trying to come up with something good to write on a morning. So I find it much easier for me to just look up a list of positive affirmations on either Pinterest, or you can find sound clips of people reading out positive affirmations on Spotify, and that one's a really good one because it's something that you can do when you're on the go as well. So if you are, for example, I used to do it, I'm working from home at the moment, but when I was travelling on a morning, I would stick the positive affirmations on in the car and I could just listen to them in the background. I didn't have to think about it, it was just there. And instead of starting my morning with my inner monologue going, oh my god, I'm so stressed, oh my god, I can't be bothered to work, I'm so tired, I'm this, I'm that, and thinking constant negative thoughts, instead I would have a voice telling me positive things like, you are surrounded by abundance, you are happy, you are bright, you have a good future ahead of you, things like that. So it kind of has almost like a subliminal mind training effect on you. Instead of listening to your own negative thoughts on a morning, you're listening to positive thoughts, and you don't have the stress of having to come up with your own ideas. Next is to become a bit of a bookworm. This is something that I always have been since I was a little kid. I've always loved reading. However, I did find that when I started suffering with depression, I kind of got away from that a little bit. I stopped doing my reading because I simply couldn't be bothered to do anything. I lost my passion to do the things I enjoyed. However, when I did push myself, I initially started off by reading self-help books and things with tips on how to recover from depression, things like that. However, what I would advise, although they are really helpful, and I am going to make a video eventually on kind of a list of self-help books that I have read that have helped me, I do find it even more helpful just to read plain old fiction, because especially with first person narratives, when you read in a book, you tend to come out of your own head and go into the mindset of the main character, and it takes you away from your own thoughts, away from your own head. When you read, and you tend to almost stop being yourself and become the character for that brief period of time that you are reading. So obviously, because you want to get yourself in a more positive mindset, what I would say is to maybe, and this is really hard coming from me, but to put down the horrors and the thrillers and the dark novels that you might normally read. That's the kind of thing that I thrive upon. I love Stephen King. Stephen King's my favourite author. I also love Richard Lehman, things like that. However, when I am feeling depressed, I don't feel like that's the best kind of genre of book to be reading, because it does put you in a negative mindset, reading about murder and gore and horror and ghosts and things like that. It just doesn't make you feel good. So my go-to book when I am feeling down is just a bit of plain old Harry Potter. I am a total Potterhead, and I find that reading a book that gets me lost in this magical fantasy world just automatically boosts my mood for a little while. When I'm reading, you do become Harry, and all of a sudden you're a wizard and you're magic and you can do all these things, and it just makes you feel so much better. So if you can bring yourself to read Harry Potter, if you are a fan of the series, I would recommend going for that. Luckily for myself, I have all the books just ready to grab when I need them. But even if you don't, I would recommend just a good old-fashioned cheesy romance novel, a fantasy novel, something soppy, something funny, something just light-hearted that you might not normally read, but that's going to take you out of feeling in a dark place into a much more light-hearted state of mind. I am the biggest hypocrite for the next one on the list, which is to avoid TV binging. Now, the operative word in this is binging, because to a certain degree I do recommend television as a way to help you with low mood and depression, because watching a good old-fashioned comedy, something like Friends, or my personal favourite, How I Met Your Mother, can again take you out of your own head and put you in the world of the characters that you're watching. I do like watching How I Met Your Mother because obviously it's hilarious and it's a bit bizarre as well, it's a bit weird. So it definitely takes me out of my kind of humdrum, mundane, everyday life, and I can get absorbed in the characters. However, you want to avoid the trap of binge watching a programme. 1 or 2 episodes, or even 3 or 4 episodes, depending on how long the programme is a nice period of time to kind of just chill and watch and laugh and enjoy. But if you go any longer than that, you do risk falling into the trap that you get from scrolling on social media, which is to feel like you're wasting time, to feel guilty for having spent so long doing something unproductive, or something that you have to be stationary, something you have to be sat still to be doing. And that just, it puts a strain on the body sitting still for so long, and it also puts a strain on the mind. So I would recommend after maybe like, for example, 4 episodes of a program to tell yourself, right, I'm going to watch this many, and then after that I'm going to get up and do a task, like even if it's just getting up and taking your makeup off, or getting up and doing the dishes, whatever it is, just do something that changes up, and then you can move on to doing something like reading a book or doing your homework, watching some YouTube videos, doing some exercise, going out for a walk, whatever it is, just so you're not doing the same thing for hours and hours on end, because that does result in a horrible state of mind and a horrible mind trap. And last on the list is to, yeah, I've got it all written down in a notebook. Last on the list is to reevaluate your diet, and this is not to say to go on a healthy diet or to eat a certain way. I'm not here to tell you how you should be eating, because I would be the world's worst example. If you've watched my last video, it was a McDonald's mukbang, so clearly I'm not the healthiest eater in the world, so I'm not here to tell anybody what they should or shouldn't be eating. But it is probably best to do a personal review of your diet and see where you can make little healthy changes that are going to obviously nourish your body, nourish your mind, and also take you out of the negative mind trap of feeling guilty again. More guilt, because guilt leads so much towards depression. More guilt about how you've been eating in the day. So this is one that happens to me a lot. I'm a big comfort eater, so I can be feeling low and run to the food cupboard and grab a bar of chocolate, eat the entire bar of chocolate, and then spend the next hour feeling like crap because I've eaten a bar of chocolate. So if you can think of ways that you can snack or change up meals to be more healthy, I've started having smoothies for my breakfast, homemade smoothies, because obviously pre-made smoothies can be high in sugar and other nasties. So I've started making my own morning smoothies, and for my lunch I used to have a big old cheese sandwich and a packet of crisps and probably a chocolate bar after that. Instead I've started having plain old boiled eggs with a piece of fruit or a piece of vegetable like a carrot, something like that, and that just means that at least I know that for 2 meals of the day I can be eating healthy and I can be guilt free. I must admit I haven't changed up my teas at all, because that is the one time of day that I do like to eat a lot. I like to have a big full belly at the end of a work shift and kind of chill and rest my, oh, how rude. I do like to chill and rest my belly and kind of veg out on the couch in front of the TV for a little bit, watch a few episodes of How I Met Your Mother, and chill out before I get up and do things like doing the dishes, doing the washing, cleaning the rabbits, things like that. As I say, it's up to you to review and reevaluate your diet and make the changes where you feel it will be easy and helpful for yourself, because it might be that you already have a really super healthy breakfast, lunch and dinner, but that you're snacking really badly in between meals, or it might be the complete opposite end of the scale where you're not eating at all and you're not making time to sit and eat, or because your mood's so low you're feeling a little bit sickly and you're feeling like you're not able to eat. It might be worth thinking, right, okay, I don't really exactly feel like eating, but I know that I should. Is there a kind of food that I can just kind of eat and is quite light on my stomach and won't make me feel sick afterwards? So I found the best when I was in a state where I was finding it difficult to eat. I found my go-to food, well, foods was chicken soup and bananas, because they were things that I just found really easy to eat, and at least I got the nourishment and I was getting the calories and the energy from the food, even though I didn't exactly feel like I wanted to eat. And talking about food and things like that, that brings me on to a bonus tip I have, which is the most boring and the most repetitive whatever tip, but it is to drink more water. I can't even express how important this is, to drink more water. Yesterday, for example, I was feeling really rubbish. I was sat at my desk doing my work and I started to get all aches down my arm. I started to get a headache, I started to feel sick, I was really tired, and I just felt completely weird and out of it. And I'd started to convince myself, because I'm a total hypochondriac, I started to convince myself that I was coming down with the flu. So I sent my other half into the kitchen to get me a couple of glasses of water. After those couple of glasses of water, I started to feel a million times better, and it turned out I was just dehydrated, and I had been, because it was really, even though the weather's a bit rubbish at the moment, it was really muggy and warm outside, and so I'd started to get really hot and dehydrated without noticing. And just those couple of glasses of water made a hell of a difference. And I find that you get that as well, not just with kind of physical feeling rubbish but mental feeling rubbish as well, is that that made no sense at all, but you know what I mean. A couple of glasses of water do make a big difference to give that your body that little bit of energy. They make you feel refreshed. It makes you feel positive in the fact that you know you've hydrated. As you know, humans are made of a high percentage of water, so it makes sense that the more you take in, the better it's going to be for your system. So it improves not only your physical well-being in the way that you feel physically, but also your mental well-being. If you don't believe me, just try it. It's such an easy step to take. If you literally can't bring yourself to do anything else to help improve your mood, at least go and get a glass of water, because that is so easy to do and makes such a massive difference. Obviously, try and drink a few litres a day like is recommended, but any amount of water that you any amount of water that you're drinking more than usual is obviously going to make a difference. So yeah, get hydrated, guys. So those are my 10 tips, my 10 little lifestyle changes that I would highly recommend. If you can, please try and push yourself to make them, because even as individual tips, they make a massive difference. But if you can do all 10 of them, you won't believe the impact that it has on you physically and mentally. And also, if you do try those tips, please comment on the video below and let me know how you got on. Let me know which tips made the biggest difference for you, and if there was any that surprised you, or let me know if you have any tips for me of just tiny little lifestyle change thought tips for the other viewers and commenters for how they can make a difference to their lifestyle. Thank you again so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. You have no idea how much of a difference it makes to me. I'm obviously a very small YouTuber, very small watch base at the moment, so any views, any subscriptions, any comments, any likes that I get just makes a huge difference to me, and I do notice every single one of them. So thank you again so much for your time, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.
Dogs?
Now I am the big ba 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 ba.